Whole agenda and whole outcome of this is we want to make sure that they're a culture and character fit for the team, and then give them just enough to get them interested. How we do that is really simple. First thing we're going to do on this call, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing word for word because that's a complete waste of time. You're a smart guy, can read. I'm going to go through the important parts. So first and foremost, we like to give someone an agenda of what's going to happen on this call, right? I will typically tell people, hey, I don't have a super formal agenda. Main priority is getting to know you a little bit better. I can spend some time telling you about what it's like to be on my team. And then we can see if it makes sense and kind of go from there if that sounds good. Yes, perfect. This question right here, Charles, is the $1 million question, and will tell you everything you need to know about an agent before you even continue, right? So I asked this question, you can ask it about a million different ways. My favorite way to ask it is, so Charles, tell me about your real estate life as of lately. How's it been going, right? All you're listening for are two things. One is their positive connotation. Yes, Charles, let me tell you about it. So I'm at KW now. I'm getting X, Y, and Z. I feel like I could be doing more. I'm not really getting the support I need, but I'm interested in taking my business to the next level. I work really hard, et cetera, et cetera. You're listening for positive connotation, right? The inverse of that, because I can, if someone wants to work hard and they're not like pulling the victim card, I can work with that. We can get that person to convert 6 houses a year, which I'm cool with, right? The inverse of that is the agent that goes, well, Charles, my broker's a jerk, and he told me I was going to get all the leads in the world and all the leads suck and it's everyone's fault but my own, right? That's all you're listening for. I've done thousands of these phone calls. There's only two directions they go. They go good, where the agent is positive connotation, just looking for more opportunity, or they broker shame. If they broker shame, that's a hard no for me. I'm not going to just end the call right there, but guess what happens? If you hire that person, even if you've got the best training in the world, in 6 months, they're going to be broker shaming you to the next guy, right? So that question, tell me a little bit more about your real estate life as of lately, will tell you everything you need to know. Usually what happens here is they'll throw up on you for 3 to 5 minutes. They will just blah, and it's either going to be good or bad. I just listen along intently. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Congratulations on all the success. That's wild. I'm sure you've experienced this. Real estate agents are notorious. The fish was this big people, right? Where they did 3 deals, but they say they did 30. And then when you're like, that's wild. I didn't see that in the MLS. Oh, I did them under my friend or something, right? You know what I'm talking about. So I just let them talk. Then kind of going into what I call like sinking the opponent's battleship. This is a really light sales tactic. The thing we got to remember is that this is a sales call at the end of the day, right? When you're on the phone with someone and you're pitching them on joining your team, this is a sales call. It is what it is, right? We have an opportunity to give them just enough to where they're interested. They're likely going to be talking to other people. So I like to preemptively start kind of poking holes in the other person's boat. How do you do that? So, Mr. Agent, I'm sure you've heard this before. The last team you interviewed at, everyone, including the team you're talking to me about now, the team you were on before, we all kind of have the 3 same things we hang our hat on, right? Leads, training, and support. The biggest difference between being on my team and every other team in our market for the most place is we actually deliver on those 3 things at a high level. And a lot of the time when I talk to agents, they tell me that the broker promised X, Y, and Z, and it never really happened. This is a Jedi mind trick. When you start saying stuff like this, the agent's going, yeah, you're right, right? Like they think back to their past experience of all the snake oil they were promised and they got nothing. So usually what happens here is you start getting the laughs out of the agent, like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's what happened. How did you know that? Right? And you're like, because I know everything because I'm Charles Netter, right? Talking about the leads and training part, right? We do this thing as team leaders where we want to feature dump, right? I have Zillow and I have The Way with Tomo and I have all this and I have this. You know this, Charles. Are real estate agents' egos like super flat and super coachable for the most part? No, right? They're not. Their egos are 20 feet tall. They don't want to admit when they're wrong. How do I know that? Because I was a naive young real estate agent at one point, right? The reality is this. When you go to explain what the value prop looks like on your team, pretend you're explaining it to a 3rd grader, right? Leads is the #1 reason we see the agents make moves. Consciously, it's leads. Subconsciously, it's they move to a leader. They move leaders, right? But we can't say, hey, I'm Christianos. I'm the best team leader of all time. You should come work for me. That's not a value prop, right? That doesn't make sense. So the leads part, we go deep on, right? I like to explain what, if you went to your local MLS, Charles, in front of all, whatever, 10,000 agents that are in your guys' marketplace, and you stood up in front of them and said, hey, what do you guys think about Zillow leads? What do you think the general consensus would be?
Hate it.
I hate it. Crap. Bottom of the barrel trash, right?
Yep.
Knowing that that's that opinion in the market, if we tell someone, hey, we have Zillow Flex leads, their first thing they hear is Zillow, right? Which automatically correlates, crap, I don't like that, waste of time. How is that a value prop? They don't understand that that second word, that flex word, is like the differentiator there, right? So we need to explain it to them. So I will take the time to explain to them what that means. So the way this works, Mr. Agent, is on my team, I'm what's known as a Zillow Flex partner. You've obviously heard of Zillow, right? You're like, oh, yep, heard of Zillow. Cool. So what this means is my team is one of a handful of teams in the entire state of Connecticut, right? That's actually been hand selected by Zillow, right? So we're one of just a couple of teams. The way this works is really cool. Imagine if you were a consumer and you went on Zillow and you found a home that you wanted to go and see. You've looked at 150, 200 houses and you finally find the one in Greenwich and you say, oh my gosh, I like this house. I want to see it. You can schedule that showing on Zillow without ever talking to anybody, right? You can click that schedule, pick a day and time that you want to see it. And this is where the magic happens. Zillow's got a process that reaches out to that person first, that buyer first, validates that they have an interest in seeing the home and that they're interested in speaking with a local agent about scheduling an appointment. Then and only then, imagine a world, Mr. Agent, where your phone rings. And on the other end of the line is a buyer that has validated they're interested in seeing the home, wanting to schedule an appointment. It does not get much better than that in terms of lead quality. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The agent is going, they're like, you can hear their jaw drop going, I didn't know that's how that worked, right? They hear Zillow automatic unconscious negative bias. We explain it to them how that works and their brain is like, it's like you invented fire, right? It's important to walk them all the way through it because they're not going to say to you, hey, Charles, I understand you have Zillow Flex, but what does that mean? That's never going to happen, right? You're going to have to dumb it down for them. And even if they don't say, oh, I didn't know that, they'll always, oh, I knew that. Of course, you have Flex. In their head, they're going, wow, that's a lot different than the value prop I thought it was with, right? So taking the time to drill it down like that and tell a story is what sets the hook, right? The next couple of things on here, I like to spend a little time talking about training. So I would talk about that 30, 60, 90. Again, explaining the how is valuable, explaining the why is more valuable, right? So if you're going to take the time to talk about training, we have a 30, 60, 90-day program. Why? Right? It's cool. So what we find is most agents who get to a brokerage are craving more training. They want to be taught how to do their job better. So what we did at the Charles Netter Group was we developed a 30, 60, 90-day plan, right? We have training every single day of the week at 2 p.m. on our team. Reason being is we don't want to be that group that brings in a title rep with bagels once a week to talk about prelims for the 20th time this year. That's not valuable to our agents, right? We want to provide tactical sales training to help you do your job and do it better. So on our team, it's an all-you-can-eat training buffet. As much or as little as you want, you get to determine that. Right. So we're, again, telling the why, not necessarily the how, right? Moving on. And you're doing check-ins along the way, not just throwing up on them. Does this all make sense? Yes, it does. Great. Support part. Charles, are you still actively involved in production?
Very little.
Okay, cool. I would talk about that, right? That is hyper valuable to an agent because a lot of the time, these agents get burned by other teams, right? There's no crappier feeling than walking out of a listing appointment with your team leader walking in, right? I've heard that. I've experienced that and felt like that is the worst feeling on the planet. I would talk about that. Hey, so on my team specifically, what we've done is a little different, right? I only work with my family and friends now, right? I'm not proactively competing with you guys on Zillow leads and stuff. We leave those opportunities for our agents. What that prevents is cherry picking, right? If I was still taking leads, of course I would take all the good ones, duh, right? All of our leads go straight to our agents, right? Which makes sure that you guys are not being left behind. So talking about not just that you're out of production for the most part, but also talking about we've got 5 support staff on our team, all designed to take workload off of your plate. We want to make sure that you're not doing, we've got a transaction coordinator, we've got a marketing coordinator, social media person, right? All of the stuff that bogs down agents from being agents, we want to take off your plate and make sure that we're handling, right? So give a high level value prop pitch on the leads, training, and support, explaining the why, not necessarily the how. The closing is really, really simple, Charles. So most team leaders and most brokers and stuff like to go for the jugular, right? Really try and close someone down on this first call. We like to keep, my process is keep it light, right? So what we do on these calls is really simple. I like to end the call. I know I just kind of talked at you, Mr. Agent. Were there any questions that you were hoping to get answered on this phone call that I have not been able to answer yet? 99.99% of the time, they're going to ask you about something here. In your experience, Charles, what do they usually ask about when you ask them if they have any additional questions?
Commission.
Commission, splits. How much money is it going to cost me? How much are you going to charge? Blah, blah, blah. My opinion is take the time to talk to them about it on the phone, right? Because guess what? Everyone else isn't going to. Most big box brokers, you ask about commission over the phone. How do I know this? Because I personally cold called like 100 real estate brokerages when we first started building Humanize, asking them about what a new agent journey looked like and how commissions worked, right? 82 out of 100 stonewalled me and said, hey, well, why don't we talk about this more in person? You can come by the office and check out the scene. That to me, right? They were in my local marketplace too, which was crazy. That to me, it just creates like an instant discredibility, right? You won't tell me what I want to know over the phone. What is going to change face to face? Are you going to try and sell me, right? So take the time, talk about splits and stuff over the phone. What are your splits, Charles, on your team? Personal production and lead production?
Yeah, so we do, everybody on the team is on 50-50 split with the team.
Okay, cool. That's common.
Across the board.
That's common. That's how teams work. Everyone knows that. That's not out of the ordinary, right? Don't be afraid to talk about that. There needs to be enough, you give enough of a value prop pitch. We hear a lot of our customers say, well, when I talk about splits, people like aren't into it, or that's where I lose them. That all that means is you did not properly set the hook, right? All that means is the value prop hasn't been built up enough. I promise you, if you tell an agent that you get an appointment with, if you walk them through that Zillow Flex thing so that they understand the gravity of that, imagine a world where you take 10 of those a month. They should be like foaming at the mouth. The right fit agent is like losing it at that point, right?
Right. Yes.
So just focus on the why and how this process works. And when they ask about splits, give it to them, because if they call 2 other brokers in the area, you know the answer to this. Are you competitive with your competitors in the market?
Yes.
Duh, right? So it's like they're going to call somewhere else. They're going to get the same answer. We're just going to have a better pitch, right? So the conversation ends in 2 ways, right? We like agent, book appointment for a face-to-face meeting on the call, right? So I have some availability today at 10 or tomorrow at 10 and the day after that at 4 p.m. Which one works better for you? I always recommend just booking it on the call. If you want to meet with them, don't, hey, I'm going to call you, I'll text you, we'll get something set up. Just book the follow-up appointment on the call, right? Cool. What's a good phone number for you? What's a good email address for you? I'm going to send you a calendar invite. I'll see you tomorrow at my office at 10 a.m., right? The other inverse of that, let's say they were a donkey. We don't want to talk to them anymore, right? So awesome. Charles, I appreciate you making the time to chat with me today. What I'm going to go ahead and do is circle up with the rest of our leadership team, and I'll be in touch with next steps, right? That's
that one I know. I know that one really well.
Good. Perfect. That one's my favorite one. It's just letting them down. They know the answer when you say that, right? They know what's going to happen. There's a functionality, Charles. This is an important thing, but I have another help article that I'm going to send you on this, but this is the important thing. When you are going to reject someone, and I'm going to pull this up so I can show you what it looks like. My whole goal with this, Charles, of Humanize and all the work we've put into it and like the experience I've had growing real estate teams. Let me get into one of these real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. My goal is to share with you guys my experience so that I can make growing real estate teams less painful, right? That's the whole reason I got into this thing. That's the why behind it. True story. I interviewed like, I don't know, probably like 1,500 agents over like 2.5 years, right? And a lot of the time when I was brand new and just growing really quickly, trying to onboard 10, 15 people a month for the first year, I would have a conversation with someone. If I didn't want to talk to them, I would just, okay, great. I'm going to circle on the leadership team. I'll get in contact with you shortly. I get off the phone. I'd never talk to them again, right? Until something it happened twice. One of them was on accident, but people will start following up with you. They can't take a hint. And then what happens when they don't get in contact with you is that they go on Google and write a nice review for you, right? Hey, I talked to this guy, Chris with eHomes, never called me back, horrible interview process. I've been sitting around waiting for an email and nothing ever happened. So my goal in sharing that with you is not to scare you, is to save you the pain that I had to go to get that review removed. It cost me $250 to get it removed, right? I may or may not have bribed this person with a Mastro's gift card, but it happened, right? And it's a part of my learning experience. So in this candidate section, the reason for the long-winded story is you have the ability on here to send someone a rejection email. It's really simple. All you have to do is come into the section, you click action, disqualify, and send automated rejection email. And what this will do is this will send this person a very nice, well-written, hey, so sorry, it's not you, it's us. We've decided to go a different direction. Please keep our phone number in case anything changes. I always recommend, if you're going to reject someone, just send the email. It's automated. Our system takes care of it for you. All you got to do is change to that disqualify